right, guys, welcome again. Thank you for joining us. This is Cat's Pajamas.
And this is Pain User.
And we are back once again for a round of 16 matchup. This is game number 4 here out of the IPL Season 2 qualifiers between roxkisBratOK, our Red Terran player here at the 12 o'clock position, on Terminus. His opponent at the 3 o'clock position, who is currently down 2-1, is our Teal Terran player, that is Beastyqt. So Bratok very, very convincingly winning games number 1 and 2, switches it up a little bit, does some Reaper harass at the beginning of game 3, really leaves him unprepared to deal with the subsequent aggression out of Beastyqt, and so we'll see if he has what it takes, play a little bit more conventional game maybe, take game number 4.
I feel like a lot of that loss from the last game really just boils down to that opener from Bratok. He invested so much early game gas, and that's the critical point. It's not just that he invested, 200 worth of gas and minerals into Reapers. It's that when you invest that gas at that point in the game, early game gas is so important because you're using that usually to get your factory, possibly stim, maybe combat shields if you're going to do an early combat shield push. There's just so many other things that gas is generally devoted to, and spending 200 of that early game gas is more than people would think it is. It's not just 200 gas at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you have the ability later on in the game and things like that to take risks on tech, to take risks on investments and things like that. But if you talk about resources as a total proportion of everything you've brought in at that time, it's just so much exacerbated in the early game. So right now, both players are actually, let's see here, putting down, I think Beastyqt was a little bit quicker to throw down his refinery. He does have 3 harvesters there. Let's see if Bratok is still on 2. So he is going for that 2 harvester opening one more time. I would suspect, given after what we've seen last time, that this is going to be going back to his reactor opening this time around. Go for that more conventional Marine plus Reaper push.
Yeah, we might even see, and we do have a tech lab going down for Bratok, so maybe a second Rax, or maybe he's just going to go with the 1 Rax tech lab expand here. I don't know. I was 100% with you. I thought he was going to drop the reactor as well, possibly do a reactor, just a single Rax reactor into Expo and take it from there. We do have a factory going down for Beastyqt right now, and we do have another Reaper coming out of Bratok, so hopefully he just goes, he's going to go with a single Reaper expand here. I think on this map with these distances, it's relatively safe. Look to see Bratok add a second and third racks relatively quick here. I don't think he's going to add a second gas. If he does, that's going to be relatively risky, and it'll open him up to a lot of early pushes.
Welcome to the world of casting, Pain User, of course, where as soon as you assume something is going to be done, you verbalize it, and then people do exactly the opposite, thus making you look stupid. So I'm used to it, but it's okay. Bratok now going to go ahead and run down with his Reaper, check, make sure nothing is there. He does have 1 SCV making his way into his opponent's natural expansion. Doesn't actually see anything there. Looks like Beastyqt does expect some sort of Reaper opening, though, the way he was positioning those Marines, sitting those next to the cliff line there. And I gotta say, though, I like the fact that Beastyqt seems like he's going after the the little bit more conventional 1-1-1 with some aggression. I think that passive play didn't lend itself well to the way that Bratok was playing the first game. Looks like Bratok is going to make his way in, though. He does kill 1 SCV at the loss of a Reaper and an SCV of his own, so not terribly successful there. He does get a lot of scouting information. Taking a look at his vision, he does know the expansion is coming up, but lost quite a bit there. Taking a look again, no, he actually did not see that starport.
So we are going to see a Marine Hellion medevac push here from Beastyqt, and I can see this doing quite a bit of damage. Bratok does have the second and third racks I was talking about, just continuing to pump out Marines at this point. He has started his stim, and he's going to be largely unprepared for a push. What it's going to boil down to is whether or not that stim is done in time when this drop comes through. Stim is going to be essential for holding this off. He's going to have a medevac, he's going to have several Hellions, and he's going to have more Marines than Bratok does. So really curious to see how this is going to play out from here. That medevac is on the way. It's about 70% done right now. And as soon as that finishes, he's look to see Beastyqt ferry his troops up onto the main via that cliff right there. Probably going to take his time to do so. He is poking the front right now. He's going to go ahead and check out, see what's going on there, sees that bunker, doesn't want to have anything to do with it, heads out, but he knows in the back of his mind he has that medevac on the way, and he's going to use that to ferry his troops directly into the main, and then he's going to be able to do some considerable damage here. One thing that BratOK does have going for him is that he can afford to take considerable damage right now. He's had that command center up for a while. He can lose, I'd say, 6 to 10 SCVs right here, and he'll still be able to recover, and he'll still be in a somewhat decent situation.
And we'll see what he can actually do to respond to this. So Beastyqt does have all of his units here inside of the main, healing up the couple that were hurt, and he's going to pick up a couple of reinforcements now. BratOK has actually not seen this whatsoever. This is a full-fledged attack, though. I mean, this isn't just harassment. This is going to be big. So here comes Beastyqt now. He's going to make his way in. There is the Scano, but BratOK is already bringing all of his forces back. A few SCVs are being pulled right now. Not actually many go down at all. And I don't know if Beastyqt has what it takes to take down these SCVs that are being pulled as well, plus the Marauders in a frontline engagement. In fact, BratOK is going to push this back, so Beastyqt has such a promising start to that, but that attack was completely destroyed.
I think that really boils down to the fact that he pulled away from the ramp too early right there. I feel like if he had kept the high ground right there and camped the top of the ramp as BratOK was pushing up the ramp into his army right there, he would have been able to do tremendous amounts of damage, but he went for the mineral line. He went straight for the SCVs. He could have even camped the top of the ramp with his Marines and sent the 4 Hellions to the mineral line and just diced those SCVs. I don't think he needed to take those Marines out of that advantageous position. And now he's trying to do double-pronged harass. He has a drop going at the main and a drop at the third. This might catch BratOK off guard. It looks like BratOK with forces in position, ready to deal with this. Such great, I mean, he's almost clairvoyant right now. He was 100% on top of that. He had troops waiting at both positions. He didn't scout either of those medevacs, so amazing, amazing intelligence, or he didn't even have any intelligence on that. He just was almost omniscient right there. That was impressive.
And like I can visualize, chat getting ready to drop the map hacks claims and things like that. But that right there is a case of knowing your opponent so well, knowing exactly what he's going to do in that situation, how he's going to follow up that initial attack he tried before. So BratOK really, really smart in this situation, already dropping down those spotted supply depots as well. So he's going to be prepared. Now, the thing is that I don't believe that, unless BratOK, of course, is saving up for an expansion right now, it looks like he is really, really dedicated to some sort of a 2-base attack here in the short term. And if Beastyqt is able to get up this third base, he's going to pull quite a good economic advantage. He didn't do as much harassment as he'd liked. Obviously, his army is a little bit smaller than his opponent's, but he is going to drop in one more time now with a few Hellions and just immediately pick up and run away, stopping that turret from being constructed. But BratOK moving through the middle of the map now with a good bit of forces, and the question is BratOK have enough to do a significant dent of damage, considering what Beastyqt has back here? I don't think he will. I imagine he'll just poke up a little bit and then end up pulling back, unless he wants to drop himself into the main.
Yeah, he might try and do a little bit of elevator action here, but Beastyqt all over this. And this really goes back to what I was saying earlier in the game on Xel'Naga. I mentioned this. I said these two players have obviously played each other many times before. They're doing things, and wow, a great drop from BratOK at the third right here. Might even force a lift. Does force the lift. Kills several SCVs. Definitely equalizing whatever kind of economic advantage Beastyqt had right there. And like I was saying, these two players definitely know each other very well. They're playing to each other's strengths and weaknesses, and both players have a very good grasp of what the other player is capable of and what he knows how to do. There was a drop at the main of Beastyqt, but it looks like he cleaned that up with a small force of Hellions and Marines. Still no upgrades on those Marines. Do we have stim? No, we have no stim, no combat shield, no upgrades on those Marines. So this looks like almost a repeat of that Xel'Naga game where Beastyqt was trying to build up his tank count, but BratOK had that early stim, the early combat shields, got those medevacs out and started using them to pull Beastyqt's army around. And denying that third was huge for him. He has now put up his third, and it's very interesting how in this entire series, every time BratOK pushes and forces, an expo to either be lifted or forces some kind of economic damage, he's able to drop the expansion himself exactly where he wants it, doesn't have to float it over, just puts it right where he needs it. He's not worried about pressure, and he's actually able to get that orbital up before his opponent gets his third up, even though he dropped his command center maybe 2 minutes later.
Oh no, it looks like a medevac does go down in the middle of the map there, so a good little gain again for BratOK. So just like you were talking about, though, I mean, how much earlier was this orbital command out and constructed? 2-3 minutes in game, something like that? And it's starting to do a little bit of damage. It looks like that BratOK is going to pull back and force this to lift off once again. Very nice job there. He's going to go ahead and pull back with his gains, but still, we're still looking at, this not being saturated at the moment. Finally dropping down a couple of mules, but if we take a look back at BratOK's side of things, look at that. I mean, this base already ready to go. This refinery, already turning a huge profit there, and another command center being constructed. So BratOK has found himself in a very comfortable position, and I think if he can just continue to keep these forces pinned to these bases for a little while, and looks like both those Marines are going to go down. Beastyqt's not going to be able to expand. He's going to force himself on these 3 bases. BratOK is just going to take the rest of the map and play really, really effectively.
And we've got another drop coming in from BratOK right here, just being so annoying right now. He's like a little mosquito just poking all around Beastyqt's base, and Beastyqt actually building up a considerable amount of Blue Flame Hellions here. It looks like we have a mech transition. If we check out his infrastructure right now, he is working off of 3, 4, 5. Wow, he is working off of 5 factories right now. Sorry, guys, we totally missed that. But he is definitely transitioned fully into mech right here. I know we alluded to the fact that he didn't have Marine upgrades earlier, and there's a very good reason for that. He's not making bio. So going mech right now, but the proper response to this for BratOK will be to add a factory or 2 and just stay on par, if not slightly ahead, with the siege tank count. And BratOK has already done this. He's already added the 2nd and 3rd factory. He is pumping the siege tanks, so he's 1 step ahead. He will be able, and look at that, adding 2 more factories. He's going to keep that siege tank count very high, and that is how you deal with a Terran opponent in TVT that is meching. It's tried and true, never lets you down, and you can use your bio. Oh, and we've got 2 Blue Flame Aliens going into the main right here, unnoticed, and not doing as much damage as I thought, not getting that good spread on the shots. Kills 3 SCVs right there, 4, 5 SCVs go down, but that Marauder not taking too much damage. He's in his flame retardant, whatever Marauders wear, Marauder suit, and he's not taking any damage from those Hellions.
No, not at all. And it looks like another drop coming in here into the 3rd, and Beastyqt going to come right back in. Oh, well, those tasty SCVs were just lined up, but he's not able to get off the shots. He kills 3 or 4 there, but it's not enough. BratOK is going to drop down his 4th command center now, establishing that 4th base, so big at this stage in the game. He is currently up 136. Oh, no, he's actually back at supply. Wow. Beastyqt playing really well off these 3 bases so far. Oh, the worker advantage there. 23 supply advantage in workers altogether. But, of course, with the 5 mules, that's not going to represent a huge economic difference. Looks like Beastyqt now going to drop down that next command center as well. So here it comes, 4 base versus 4 base, but BratOK is well prepared for this hard contained setup in the middle of the map. Does have missile turrets down in addition to a sensor tower and some bunkers, so he is going to know exactly when this command center is going to move through. But it looks like Beastyqt may be getting ready for a big patrolling medevac there. A big, good old-fashioned engagement here. He's going to move his way out. BratOK is sieged up, though. He's in a very good position. All the Vikings are making their way forward to give vision to the rest of the siege tanks here out of Beastyqt, but a lot of damage being done by BratOK. He is actually pretty cost-effectively, well, it was initially managing this, but now with the Viking cover and with the amount of tanks here, Beastyqt looks like he's going to be able to break through this, or at least establish a wide enough perimeter to start moving towards that 4th base.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that. I think he's in kind of a tricky situation here. He's going to have to trade every inch of ground that he wants to gain to take that 4th. And keep in mind, BratOK already has that 4th up and running, and oh god, I didn't know if those tanks were actually in range or not, but they are in range of the 4th, and that makes things extra dicey for Beastyqt. I don't understand the decision on the Vikings. He invested, how many Vikings? He has 6 to 8 Vikings. He still has them. They're still performing their duty of doing nothing. If he had built maybe 1 to 2 BCs as a follow-up to those Vikings. BCs would be able to work wonders right now on this tank line, but he's actually switching to Thors right now, and I don't know if that's the best decision considering how many factories Braddock has right now and his ability to produce tanks on par with Beastyqt. There's no way Beastyqt is going to be able to take the advantage in siege tank numbers from here on out.
Yeah, or even if it was just something besides extra Vikings, you know, as soon as he moved out there, he really didn't establish the fact of whether or not he had air control and just decided to pump out those Vikings like you had mentioned. A couple of Banshees in there, a couple of Medevacs, just anything to go ahead and support the mobility of this force here would have worked quite well for him. Beastyqt, though, does have a bunch of 2-2 Thors out, and those are going to get torn up if they walk directly into the siege tank line. Uh-oh, but it looks like he is going to go for it. So Beastyqt going ahead and sieging himself up now. Here come the rest of the Thors, and the Thors are going to mow through a lot of those siege tanks, but looks like BratOK is going to go ahead and siege up one more time, forces all of those units away. Man, many of those Thors down to almost no health. 14 points of health for just a 1-kill Thor for the time being. And Beastyqt just really wants to work himself out of this contain, but at what cost? BratOK has almost equalized the supply. Both players are almost equal in workers. Of course, with that 4th base that's been in process so long for BratOK, though, he is just pulling great numbers, actually coming through here and taking out a lot of those Thors. 3 Thors go down right away, and that is exactly what Beastyqt does not want to see.
Yeah, that's definitely not good for Beastyqt. Those Thors need to be supported by the tanks at all times. Allowing the bio to intercept those Thors naked is not cost effective. Thors are so expensive, they have to be protected by something. But one thing these Vikings are helping out quite a bit with is they are spotting. Beastyqt doesn't have to use nearly as many scans as BratOK does to keep sight of the siege tank lines. And wow, this game is really breaking down to a World War I type situation here. Just straight up trench warfare. Both these players are being so diligent about moving their tanks up, just creeping for inches and inches of land. No man's land somewhere in between here, in between the potential 5th for either player, although I'd imagine either player would expand away from there. That is kind of a hot spot. But yeah, the no man's land hasn't moved for the past 5 minutes here, although players are taking a foot here and there. More importantly, Beastyqt has still not been able to grab a foothold at that 4th. And I think as opposed to pushing to the left here, Beastyqt should really be focused about taking out this bunker and all these tanks, because that's what's preventing him from getting his 4th right now, and that's really what he needs. And the ground, the turf that he's fighting for above the Xel'Naga Tower here, where he has a majority of his army, is not really valuable to him right now. This isn't a key area unless he's going to push and try and end the game from killing that tank line.
No, especially considering where it's at. I mean, BratOK would be able to move in there very, very quickly. Oh, nice job. A couple of Blue Flame Hellions walking down to the bottom left. They are able to deny the next expansion out of BratOK. But, I mean, this is so close to BratOK's main that he can just produce units and continually harass this. There would be no way that Beastyqt could establish a base here at all. So he does not have his 4th. He is mined out of his main. He is mined out of his natural. He is a good portion mined out of his 3rd base, so really down to 1 base mining at this time. Definitely is not where he wants to find himself, and if we take a look, BratOK is maxed, and he's just going ahead, sitting back, piling up the upgrades for the time being. It looks like we do have a Blue Flame Hellion drop coming into the 3rd of BratOK, and that's going to go ahead and take out a good portion of SCVs that are here, but he just has so many orbital commands right now, he can immediately replace that with mules, and it's almost no loss to his economy at the moment. In fact, it just frees up some supply for yet more siege tanks.
Yeah, I totally agree. When you have that many orbital commands, it's not such a big deal to lose too many SCVs. And Beastyqt actually throwing away a few SCVs of his own. He might have even realized right there as he was killing SCVs with his Hellions, like, hey, you know what? I might be doing him a favor right now. I'm going to throw you some SCVs of my own to equalize it. But right now, neither player really... well, one thing BratOK... oh, my God. Picking off a bunch of tanks right there for free. Taking shots at that sensor tower for some reason. I don't know if that prioritizes over siege tanks or if they just don't have sight far enough to hit the tanks above the Xel'Naga, but... not a good trade there for Beastyqt. You can't afford to be throwing away siege tanks at this point. And BratOK just with a panzer army right here in the middle of the map. And that's just the unsaged tanks. He has an entire line of siege tanks that runs, all the way across the middle of the map right here. and still denying that fourth, really just starving Beastyqt out. And if you look at the map control and map dominance for BratOK right now, he is in a great position to take this game. Beastyqt definitely still in it, still fighting, but if you look at the supplies and if you look at the site on the map, and it looks like BratOK is going to go in here with all of his tanks unsieged, and this is a very bold move from him right here, just pushing onward into siege tanks, and there are a bunch of Thors right there, but they are going to have to hightail it out of there as soon as they see all those tanks siege up. And it looks like Beastyqt making a bit of an air transition here. He has 4 Banshees out on the field. There is really no anti-air to speak of from BratOK, and he has a Viking squad of his own coming in here now, and that might be able to combo, and he does have Cloak. So both players doing several things right now that I really like. Trying to transition out of this stalemate tank-on-tank phase, but taking a ton of damage on his Banshees right there. Gonna have to pull out, not doing quite as much damage as he would have liked, I'm sure. And now his fourth is just getting absolutely shelled away. He does have 2 orbitals here, but they're not even within mining distance of the mineral patches. And yeah, BratOK just with great position right now.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that this could be the death knell here for Beastyqt. It looks like a goody decided to go ahead and take the body of BratOK there for a while and produce the Panzer Army Extraordinaire, but BratOK is going to go ahead, takes out both of those bases that were sitting there, and there is basically no mining whatsoever done for Beastyqt. He is down to 142 supply. Looks like he's going to make his way out maybe for one last desperate base trade style push, try and circumvent that army and hope he can survive for long enough. But BratOK, he's already going ahead and establishing a planetary fortress down here. He's still working off of that fourth. BratOK is just going to commit a few of his forces back and completely clean up Beastyqt. The rest of the forces are going to go down. BratOK takes all of those out. There's the GG. So BratOK is going to advance, and he does qualify for IPL Season 2. Congratulations to roxkisBratOK.
Yeah, very well played game by BratOK right there. Just zone control in mid. You had the World War I trench warfare going on. Both players being very diligent about their tank movement, but I feel BratOK had the superior positioning for the majority of that game, and his trades in the tank versus tank battles were just so cost effective. I mean, repeatedly, over and over, he was trading 4 tanks for 2, 4 tanks for 1. And anytime you have a situation like that, just do the math. I mean, you're gonna come out ahead, and Beastyqt eventually getting starved out, unable to secure his fourth. And I think that was one of the major blunders on Beastyqt's end right there, is that he tried to work north of the Zelnaga as opposed to work south and kill the bunker and the siege tanks and secure his fourth. And I think at one point he had the forces to do that, but he committed to that attack across the top and wasn't able to make any headway, wasn't able to get to the production line, and it essentially did nothing. I mean, he fought for a piece of territory that wasn't of benefit to him. And I think that really was the thorn in his side for the majority of that game.
Absolutely. And, there was, just like you were talking about there, if you're going to waste that many forces, you might as well gain ground that's actually valuable to you, because I think there was a point in that game when Beastyqt was still up in supply, and I think you and I were under the impression, well, at least he's gotten his fourth down and he's okay now. But we come back 8 minutes after he had initially tried to set it down, it was still floating in the air. And by that point, he was almost doing no mining, and every engagement he entered into, even if he was cost effective, even if he was trading even supply, was detrimental to him because of the way that BratOK could just continually reinforce his army. So that being said, congratulations again to BratOK. He does advance to qualify for IPL Season 2. Of course, $50,000 prize pool. Going to be an amazing, amazing tournament. This was Cats, Pajamas, and Pain User. We're going to bring another set to you guys here in just a second, so you guys don't go anywhere.